Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Keeping Her Keys podcast. I'm recording this episode on November the 10th, 2022. First of all, I want to say thank you for listening to this season of the podcast. I love getting your feedback. So if you have any suggestions for episodes or questions you want me to answer or anything like that, send them to info@keepingherkeys.com and I'll be happy to answer them. So this is going to be a solo episode of just me. To be honest, I've been thinking about this episode all week, how I wanted to do it. Because I just feel like there's a lot going on in the world right now. And I'm listening to all of you. I'm listening to you on my social media, in my private messages, in my email, in my school in Covina, what we're talking about. And, this is a big week. So in the US, there were elections this week. A lot of complicated feelings about that for many people. Certainly, there's trouble, right? There's trouble for some of the states. And also, I guess, federally in the US with the balance of power for the Senate and the House, and just all this hateful horribleness about reproductive rights, about women's freedom, which reproductive rights and women's freedom are interrelated, but not a perfect correlation. Reproductive rights are for everyone. Women's rights, are about including reproductive rights, but they also include like personal freedom, financial stability, the ability to freely move, and all of these issues. There are also, the candidates who are really pushing an extremist agenda about even changing the Constitution. So there's just a lot of heaviness, I think, around US politics right now. So if that's sitting on you, with you there in solidarity, I, of course, am a Canadian. And we have our own issues here, for sure. The healthcare system is falling apart. The recession is hitting everybody. There's so much going on right now, and we knew going into this pandemic, I think, that things would get rough, but none of us had firsthand experience with a pandemic before. None of us knew the ugliness it could bring out in humanity, and also the incredible mercy, for our healthcare workers, like the way they have risen to this challenge and supported people just beyond any capacity. And I have many healthcare professionals that are my followers, and in my inner circle, the team I work closely with in this school, we have multiple healthcare professionals working in different capacities, from on First Nations reserves to in admin positions in hospitals and so on. So, I have great empathy for our healthcare workers who have gone through this. So there's just so much going on in the world right now. And then there's all of us, who have walked through the pandemic and are trying to figure out how to navigate the world in which we now live, where there is this rise of extreme ideas about personal freedom, and there is a lot of fascism in the air, and these people are really good, really savvy with the social media. Of course, here in Canada, they're having a review of what happened with the trucker occupation of the area around our parliament buildings in Ottawa, the national capital, late last winter. There just seems to be, and then, I mean, can we talk about Iran? Can we talk about all the things? There just seems to be a lot on the world stage for us to kind of grapple with. And I think we're all feeling a lot right now. And I had originally scheduled, I was going to do this from the archives episode this week, talking about it's an older one. I think it's actually from like 2018 or 2019. It's a talk, one of my earliest talks, and I just go over like how to connect with Hecate and talk about, different tips I have and so on. And that was on the schedule for this week. But, like we've just been talking in my inner circle about navigating everything that's going on in the world right now. And so we did a ritual the night of the full moon, which was before the US elections, and kind of strategically targeted certain races. For me, the race in Pennsylvania was one that was really important. Unfortunately, that one seems to have gone in a way that is sensible. And just really encouraging, sending the energy out into the world to encourage reasonable people to get out and vote. But of course, we also know that there's so many barriers to voting these days, not just in the US, but elsewhere. And there's just a lot going on in the world right now. And as a Hecatean, how do we navigate this? And I've just been thinking about what to do for this episode all week, and feeling like, well, the archive episode is actually really good. It's a good talk. It's kind of interesting. I want to do archive episodes. I think it's kind of fun for us to kind of look back at earlier talks I've put out in the world. And then for those of you who haven't heard it before, it's also really good too, right? So, but this week you are just getting me by myself, just talking about how can we lean in to our own inner resources and lean in to Hecate, who is this ancient goddess, often popularly kind of described as like the queen of witches and, goddess of the underworld, and this rather mysterious lunar figure, very associated with being the light and the darkness, and so on. And I think it is to her right now that we can really, really turn as both that darkness, as both this spirit that truly understands what darkness is, both in the healing aspects of darkness and in also the shadow aspects, right? The dangerous aspects of things that lurk in the shadow. Whether it's our own interior inquiry into our personal healing journey into wholeness and understanding our own darkness, both those things that have gotten hidden but deserve to come to light, and also the parts of ourselves that are dangerous and reckless, and the mistakes we've made, the times we've hurt others, the times we've hurt ourselves, like seeing ourselves as not impervious to having done wrong in the world, to seeing our totality. And for me, that is what the spirit of Hecate really represents. She is about facing our totality. She is both a nourishing lunar light. She is the torch, of course. That's one of her most ancient symbols. Her torches, often twin torches. And also this aspect of Hecate as this kind of great mother figure who encompasses all there is. She is not like a beatific goddess who doesn't have difficult aspects to her. You know, one of her ancient epithets, I think it's from the text known as the Greek magical papyri, which is basically a collection of fragments of ancient spells and rituals that was found in Egypt, I think about 100 years ago. So they were written over several hundred years. It's a collection of papyri. So if you're familiar with like the Dead Sea Scrolls or something like that, it's the same kind of thing. But and in this, you know, you get that totality of Hecate. You get her as Paonios the healer, and also as Babora Forba, which is where we're at in my school. What we're focused on right now in the courses is Babora Forba, the filth-eating goddess. So that she's all of these things. You know, she's not restricted to what our culture today might say the divine feminine can be, right? She is all of those things. She can heal our darkness. She can unburden us from our mistakes, because her darkness is so great. She can take our darkness. And in the courses, we're getting ready for the first ritual that we do in our cycle, which is known as the Anima Catharsis in the school, or the ritual of release. Now, my next book that's coming out in January is basically, it covers this ritual and the journey through Hecate's cave in a way that's really safe for you to do on your own. But in this school, in my courses, there's two levels. We go into this, there's a Hecate's Keys program, which is like the foundational series of 4 courses that cover the wheel of the year, that kind of provide like an experience for doing deeper personal inquiry and magic and experiencing meditation, ritual, daily practice, and so on, in a foundational way. And then I teach a course called Lampadia that is more immersive, more rooted in depth psychology. We do many kind of psycho-spiritual exercises and so on, and we really do that deep inquiry. So that is, I don't like to use the word advanced, because it's just where someone is at in their journey. If they, what they need right now is that foundational experience, or if they're ready for that more immersive experience. So in those courses right now, we are prepping for this catharsis ritual, and we've been working with the spirit of catharsis, of release, for the past several weeks. So each of the courses in the 2 programs lasts for about 3 months, and we follow the lunar schedule. So we follow the lunar months. And so we're getting ready for this ritual on the Sagittarius new moon. And with everything going on in the world right now, you know, we are like in this global period of catharsis, right? And catharsis can be rough. You know, it's tempting to think, well, I'll just let it all go, you know, like the song from the Disney movie, let's just let it all go. But even in that Disney movie, it was a process. It was rough. It wasn't easy. And catharsis is not easy. This time of great upheaval in the planet, of catharsis, of releasing the systems, of the destruction of old systems, it is going to be rough, and there is going to be backlash. And in our own lives, going through the pandemic, I think many of us, I know certainly me, my energy has really been on letting go of what doesn't serve me, letting go with what doesn't feel true to me, like letting go of what I would call false keys. like, so the keys of being really popular, or the keys of making a lot of money, or, those kind of keys. And really clinging to the keys that for me open the gates to a really rich and meaningful life, where I can do the work that I feel called to do by Hecate, and have a really rich personal life as well. And I think maybe you understand that as well. The pandemic has taught us that having a deeply meaningful life, where we know we are so much more than whatever is going on around us, or even what we might be experiencing in our physical selves. I've had COVID. I had COVID back in September, and have been having a lot of difficulties even since then. So my energy has been low. So I've been happy that I had some recordings that I could put up, because I have been back and forth to the hospital and dealing with a lot. I am feeling better. I think finally I'm getting the eclipse the other day. When I was out watching the eclipse, it was like something finally shifted in me. And it was like the spirit of COVID finally started to loosen its grip on my body, on my lungs. And then before that, of course, on the new moon closest to the summer solstice, I got bit by that brown recluse spider. So I have been going through this personal health journey of really needing to take care of myself, and to take it easy, right? I see that as like capital E, capital Z. I'm Canadian, so I gotta say Z. And navigating how to do that was still, having a mortgage to pay, and having a house to look after, and my kids, and my oldest son, whose health is really, really poorly again. And doing all of this, and just how do I do this with some grace and some mercy, and lean into Hecate and what I feel called to do. So what I feel called to do is to teach my courses, lead the read along group, do the podcast, and just talk to y'all. Like, not have a bunch of pretenses or all this fancy shit. Like, let's just talk. Life is rough. We are strong. We are wise. We are Hecateans. Or if you're not a Hecatean, you're curious about Hecate as a spirit, and you're listening to this because something about her makes something in you thrum, and you resonate with the idea of the spirit who is emblematic of the sacred feminine, and that she is this total figure that is both the darkness and the light within it. So let's just lean into this. Let's lean into our inner light within us. Let's lean into our own darkness. Let's try to understand ourselves and build a life that is like a temple, that we are our own temple, that we see ourselves as sacred. So we see ourselves, if you like this metaphor, as a child of Hecate, a child of the darkness and the light, a child of the lunar. And that we go forth into this world with, the principles or the keys or the values I write about in the Keeping Her Keys book, which is passion, kindness, and integrity. And we try to find some equanimity within ourselves as we navigate these really difficult times, this period of catharsis. There is a card in the Wild Unknown archetypes deck by the amazing Kim Kranz, and I teach many of her decks as part of my curriculum in the school because they're so evocative of the deeper world. But there's this card in the Wild Unknown archetypes deck called the Fault Line, and I remember back in 2020 when I wrote this article called 2020 is the Year of the Witch. I talked a little bit about the astrology. I talked about what I felt were the changes that were coming. And I didn't talk about the Year of the Witch in the sense like, oh, it's all going to be wonderful and we'll be flying around in our brooms with our potions and life's going to be easy peasy. Um, I talked about how it was going to be really rough. And it has been really, really rough. And I think we need to talk about it. And, you know, whether you're in my school or you're on my Facebook or you send me an email, like talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. We're all going through this. It doesn't mean that Hecate is not a spirit that we can turn to. It doesn't mean, you know, we're not in kindergarten, right? Like it's not like, well, you know, if Hecate existed, none of the bad things would happen. I am so done with anybody who has that attitude. The world is complicated. Hecate is complicated. As a divine force, as Anima Mundi that runs through all things, Hecate knows what's what. Our place in all of this can be small. And for me, being devoted to Hecate doesn't mean that my life is going to be some kind of like tulip dancing, unicorn frolicking foray. It means that I have a strength within me, that there is a light within me, and that that light is an offshoot of Hecate's light, and that her spark that fuels the world lives in me. This doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It means that we are strong and resilient and wise, passionate. We can have kindness, we have integrity, and that we're mature. We are not children who believe in Santa Claus. We are children who understand that Hecate is a spirit that gives us succor, that she nourishes us, but that there's no utopia where all of a sudden all the world's problems just instantly vanish. That she is here to see us through, and that we are essential, especially if you not only identify with Hecate, but for you, you also identify as a witch. Like we have always been the ones who walk through darkness so we can heal ourselves and heal others, and also play a very important part in the fabric of the world. We are the ones who tend that flame when the rest of the world is enchanted by toxic positivity and, you know, don't worry, be happy, everything is great, put it on the credit card, all the fakeness on that some people put on their social media. When all the world is enchanted by that toxic positivity, we are the correcting force that says this is real, this is true. There is darkness, and the darkness is where the richness is. The darkness is where the healing is found. The treasure is always in the darkness, and we always go on a very rough journey to get to the treasure. So if you are dealing with personal trauma, difficult circumstances, whatever it is, just I encourage you to lean into that light within you and to lean into that light as a way of connecting to the amazing healing powers of Hecate as this great mother who is both light and the darkness, and who helps us find our own wholeness by exploring the two. In the school, we've been working a lot with the Anima Mundi chant from the Keeping Her Keys book. So I thought we would end this episode with that chant. So if you have your candle there, I'm going to light the candle in just a minute. So you can grab your candle. So let's light our candle and do a simple ritual with your candle. If you don't have your candle, use your hands, left hand, and we'll move the left hand either with the candle or circling it counterclockwise. And this is evocative of the energy of release, of letting go, of cleansing. We usually do this 3 times around, but if you need it more, just stay with it until you start to feel that shift where you're letting go of the troubling thoughts, letting go of some entrenchments you might have with toxic positivity and culture, letting go of the news a little bit, just release it. Create a little bit of openness here, that tightness we get when we get so stressed out by everything that's going on. Just let's release it. And then shift to your right hand, holding the candle or moving your hand in a clockwise direction. And this is about protection and connection. And again, just do it until you feel that change where you feel a little safer, you feel a little bit more connected to the ones you care about, what's important to you, more connected to yourself. And then I always end this little ritual with an invocation. So let's end our time together today with this Anima Mundi chant from the Keeping Her Keys book. It's on page 68 of the printed version, if you happen to have that. So just close your eyes or soften your gaze into the candle. Hail Hecate. Breathe it in. Let it go. Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. Again, let's breathe it in and let it go. Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. In and out. Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. In through the nose, nice and deep, and then push it out through the mouth. Send it forth. She who is the very soul of the world, within me lives the same spark that fuels all of creation and birthed the universe. Let's do it again with the breath. Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. Let's breathe it all the way in. Feel that spark. And then let it go. Send it forth. Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. All the way in, right down to the root, to those sitting bones. And then Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. One final time, let's do it together. All the way in, all the way past the heart, down to those sitting bones. And as you blow it out, to send it forth. And also feel those tethering roots of the sitting bones, that root energy center. You might call it the root chakra. I write about it a lot in my teachings. See that stretching out and tethering and grounding you. Feel your heart and your strong back. You are open and connected, but you are strong. And your mind is clear and you can see the deeper meaning, the deeper world, and connect with your allies in Hecate. Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. Hail Hecate, Anima Mundi. Thank you for watching or listening, and I'll see you again soon.